Hello, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Jimmy.
Welcome to A Job Done Well.
A podcast about the world of work and how to improve the daily grind.
Good morning.
Good morning, James. 12 episodes in and we're still listening to that shit music.
I like it.
When can we change it?
We can't, mate. You're going to have to put your hands in your pockets to buy some more if you want to change it. And even then, I veto it because I'm the only one who's got the ability to use the technology.
If it comes out of money, just tell me how much.
Yeah. It's skill. That's the problem, not money, mate. That's the difference between you and me. Anyway, how's your week been?
All right. This week, to one of my favourite hobby horses, big companies versus small, had a problem with my laptop. And I must have spent hours and numerous calls onto Microsoft and their various help desks to try and get them sorted out. No joy. Absolutely no joy. In the end, it was a choice between throwing it through the window or take it into someone locally. So I took it into Blue Wolf IT in Nottingham and they got me sorted out. But it does make you appreciate when you used to work in big organisations and you ran the help desk, not work services. At least then they used to get somebody to fix it. Now you have to go and do it yourself. But
when you're paying somebody to fix it, I bet they were much more useful than your average network services.
Oh, 100%. So I'm back online.
Excellent.
How's your week been?
Well, I have been watching the TV program, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office.
Oh, yeah.
Which
classic.
If you've not watched it, you have to watch it. It is just jaw-dropping. It is so good that I bought the book as well. I'm listening to it on audio book and I'm walking along screaming. People are giving me all sorts of funny looks. But if you haven't seen it, watch the television program and read the book. It's just classic example of a whole host of things we talk about, why things fail. But actually, on that note, we're going to talk today about transformation projects and why they sometimes fail, which is kind of linked. So, first question then. What is transformation? Well, I got my dictionary out.
Excellent.
I had a look. And so apparently a transformation is a marked change in form, nature, or appearance, or a transformation is an extreme radical change. So that's what the dictionary says. What does that mean in organisations?
We've lost sight of it a little bit. We tend to talk about big programs of change, huge ambitions, big budgets. Everything's in scope. You're changing the whole organisation. So they naturally tend to be very complex. But we don't often ask, are they really something that we should do to solve a specific problem?
Yeah. And so do they work or not? What do you think?
Well, I think if you go back to your definition, really it is about the output rather than when we talk about transformation, we mean a project, a program, a series of change. Actually, do I think transformation work? I think I'm on the fence, to be honest. I think organisations often bite off more than they can chew. And it's really synonymous with large IT projects. So transformation tends to involve lots of technology. So there's an immediate assumption that technology is the answer.
The solution.
Yes. And so I think often you see organizations are now doing it with AI. We've done it with robotics before and digital and systems and CRMs and it's a solution looking for a problem. That isn't to say that they don't work, but are they really solving the problem that you want? So you get senior execs in organizations wanting to keep up with the Joneses. So everyone's talking about AI. I don't want to be left behind. I want an AI project. No. What's the problem you're trying to solve? And then does AI actually solve the problems that you've got? Does it improve your performance? The issue is, as a senior person in an organization, it's very easy just to say, I want an AI project. I want to transform. Because it makes the solution easy. Then the hard bit is actually the implementation. That's all right. That's somebody else's problem. That's not my problem.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit on the fence.
Well, I'm less convinced, I have to. But
no surprise there, James.
Well, so
ever the cynic.
So my idea of transformation. So it's like those before and after pictures you see on the internet, isn't it? When I was a kid, I got sand kicked in my face. It's one of those muscle pictures. And you see these guys and they change dramatically. So it is transformation, but not everything changes, right? So yes, they do go to the gym.
You've stayed with the before picture, haven't you?
I've got a bulwark.
You're still a 9 stone weakling.
Gathering dust in my wardrobe. Anyway, I wonder how many people know what a bulwarker is. I'm showing my age there. So my point before I was so rudely interrupted is, yes, they do change, right? So they do go to the gym and they do diet, but that is all they do. They're not trying to learn a new language. They're not trying to buy a house. They're not trying to land a new job, not getting divorced, and they're certainly not doing it all at the same time. And I'm absolutely of the camp that transformation is just a sexy name for a big IT project. And actually, if you appoint a transformation director, you need some big, sexy projects to go along with the job. So I honestly think you'd be much better off focusing what needs to be fixed rather than fixing everything. So here's my example, right? When I was a teenager, I was brought up in deepest, darkest North Yorkshire, and I got a driving license. And it transformed my life, right? Because before that, I was stuck at home in a farmhouse in North Yorkshire. Whereas after that, I could go out, I could go into town, I could see my friends, all over the place. A driving license isn't a big thing, but it was absolutely transformational. So for me, it is, yeah, I think you're right. What's the problem you're trying to solve? And so I do come to the opinion, which I think it's just a corporate buzzwords a lot of the time. Not really for me. I mean, does it turn you on or not?
Well, I think it may be semantics, but I think transformation does have a place. If you go back to the principle, sometimes things need to change quite dramatically in an organization.
Yeah.
That may be that you've got a big problem, the market may be changing, you may have some real financial challenges, you may just want to improve what you're doing. The principle of transformation as you defined it at the outset, which is a marked change in form, nature or appearance, a radical change can be necessary frequently in organizations. So I think that you're right. It's become a dirty word because people think about transformation. They do think, as you said, project management, governance, the G word.
Oh, I like the G word.
That just ties you up in artifacts and collateral and all that sort of corporate bullshit and costs a lot of money. So I do think that the desire to transform, desire to improve is right. And I think done in the right way, solving the right problems, it's a winning formula.
Yeah, as long as we're just not using it as a way to throw a lot of money at a problem.
So you know about the planning fallacy?
Oh, I do. The planning fallacy. Projects, particularly big projects, are always late and they always take more money than people thought they were going to do. My favourite example is Sydney Opera House.
Right, yeah.
Now, apparently started in 1959 and was due to finish on the 26th of January, Australia Day, did you know?
Yeah.
1963, 4 years later.
Okay, yeah.
In reality, they finished it 10 years late in the early 1970s.
Wow.
And it cost 13 times as much money as they thought they were going to do.
That is late and some impressive overrun.
But it's not just the Australians. The Berlin-Brandenburg Airport was supposed to be delivered, I think, in 2011 and came in 2020. So even German efficiency is subject to the planning fallacy. And do you know what causes it?
Well, I have experienced it firsthand.
Go on.
My house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's taken twice as long and cost 3 times as much to do that.
Wow.
And to be honest, near enough every project in between I've been involved in is often late. If a project is delivered on time and on budget, it's considered to be quite extraordinary, isn't it?
And I'm quite intrigued in this then relating to your house, because the two factors are no project manager is prepared to ever accept that they're an average or below average project manager. So everybody's too confident in their own ability.
Yeah, I can see
And then
that.
the other thing is people don't like to say no to power. So if it's career limiting to say, no, we can't deliver this project on time, people won't admit to it. Which begs the question, where's the power in your house?
Not with me, clearly.
Yeah.
But I think optimism bias creeps into people's belief that things will work out and will work out on time and on budget.
Yeah, absolutely. So assuming that we have got the planning fallacy going big and strong in our organizations, why is it that everybody jumps for the system transformation lever as the thing to pull?
Well, I think as somebody who has run both operations and technology teams, from an operations perspective, it's always good to blame the system. You know, the system doesn't do what you need it to do. You're not performing well enough because of the system. So it's an easy out. So therefore you need a new system. And from a technology perspective, it's great to have a sexy new IT project to run. So everyone wants to be part of that in the technology space.
Well, there you go. So it's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy then. And do all transformation projects fail then, do you think?
No, and I'll give you an example of where I have seen it work, which you'll recall as well. We were both involved in a program called the Vision Program back in the day, which was run by a colleague of ours, Steve, and he did a great job with the program. It was a whole load of disparate projects that were being run across this operation, and he turned it into a singular program. But got it really focused on solving people's problems and making a difference for the customers. So it moved from exec pet projects to a real solution-based program. And it was really innovative in terms of both the solutions and the way of engaging the people. So the people who were involved in the change were the customer for the project, not the senior people in the organization. And we used things like video diaries so that they could hear about the change that was coming from their colleagues rather than from the execs. And I think that when you put the people at the heart of a change and you solving the problems that they're trying to get for their customers, I think it makes a big difference. So I think that's what I mean about the solutions were customer-focused solutions. The way of implementing the change was focused on the people. And sure enough, it was a very successful program that Steve ran. And it was runner-up. So this just shows when it was. It was runner-up that year in a big awards ceremony to the Olympics for programs that were delivered.
That year being which year was that?
2012, wasn't it?
So you haven't had a success since 2012. Is that what you're telling me?
No, this was Steve's success, not mine.
All right.
But I think that's a great example of putting customers and employees at the heart of things, building belief in what the change was rather than just an understanding of the change, and also looking at how you'll sustain change over a period of time. So not drop a system and then run off and leave it.
And I just think that a lot of the time we confuse big projects with transformation. And
Very true.
I've been involved in a couple of really big system changes in my career. And frankly, they're just notoriously difficult to deliver. And when you get in that mindset, the system is the answer, when it's probably not. So let me give you an example. Teaching to suck eggs, but lots of organizations worry about saving money. And the solution is, well, we need a new system because that's the only way we'll save money. So we'll go and automate everything. But they'd be far better off looking at the work that they've got and saying, well, how can we mitigate this to start off with? And then when they've mitigated the stuff that they don't need to do, then the next thing is, how can we simplify what's there? And then when they've simplified stuff, well, then, okay, let's look at automating it. And then after you've automated it, maybe then you ought to go on and outsource some. But the point there being automate and outsource are right at the chain, whereas those big projects which I've been involved with, it's all about automating and outsourcing. And it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. And I suppose it just comes back down to the ego of the transformation director. So as you said, I just think transformation, it should be about the output and not the input.
The other thing, big system projects tend to take a while to deliver. I know we, in the royal sense, have got better at delivering projects generally with the advent of things like Agile. But do you remember one organisation we worked for spent a 9-figure sum on a system? By the time it was delivered, it took so long, it was effectively obsolete.
Yeah, I do. I remember very well.
But again, there was the ego of once you started down that transformation route, not being able to stop. I think that's one of the things that when do you call time on something, or do you keep challenging yourself to deliver?
Oh, absolutely. And I do remember on one occasion, and the guy, I'll be honest with you, I loathe this chap. He was one of our senior guys, but he did have the sense to call time on a transformation project, put the brakes on it. The whole thing came squealing to a halt. It wasn't the right thing for the organisation to do, and he made exactly the right call.
In fairness, not many people do that because you start spending and you keep throwing good money after bad. Another where I've seen it work was a big digital program that I inherited. When I joined this organisation, they had spent many, many millions on digital because they wanted to become digital. It was a tech play. Digital must be the answer, without really looking at the problems, being run by technicians, and they'd made no progress despite spending millions of pounds on it. When we took it over, the team that delivered it worked on the solution with the customers and the staff, so they co-designed it. They didn't try and automate and make everything digital. They looked at what was the biggest pain point and the biggest volume, and they made that easier for both staff and customers. And sure enough, adoption was really quick. We thought it would take possibly years. Actually, we got over 95% of people using the service within months, and it was a tenth of the cost that had been spent when it was pure tech play.
Yeah, but I think the key thing there is focusing on the big thing and simplifying and getting rid of the rest. Now, here's a story for you. Back in the day, a long time ago, very old school, I worked in an ice cream factory. I actually met my wife in the ice cream factory, but there is another story.
Aww.
Yeah, it was love over the steel toe cap boots.
I thought he was going to say love over the cornettos.
No.
Come on, Joe. I could just see you singing, serenading her.
It maybe was love over the cornettos. Anyway, they had invested a huge amount of money in an auto palletizing system. So it was one of these, you'd have seen it, when you see television documentaries, lots of robots picking up boxes and putting them down, and lots of conveyor belts. Because when you're making ice cream, one of the most expensive things is actually putting the ice cream on pallets so that you can ship it to shops. And of course, all of these pallets, all of these ice creams are different sizes and shapes. So all the boxes on the pallets are different sizes and shapes. So to minimize the cost of shipping, what you do is you change the pattern on the pallet. So this robot could handle 500 different pallet patterns, hugely complicated. So they invested huge amounts of money in this thing, and the damn thing never ran. The only time I ever saw it run was when the technical director came to the plants, and then it would always run because they wanted to prove to him that it was a sensible use of money. And there is my point. How do you focus on the few things which are really important, automate those, rather than trying to go at everything? And the service industry is particularly bad for this because you've got the customer at the front end. Everything's incredibly varied. So there's the trick.
I think you're right, but I think it is focusing on the outcomes that you want rather than the inputs. And I think then once you figured out the problem you're solving, you need to think about people in order to succeed.
Yeah.
Great story I was told about a project that the Foreign Office did was it implement a system to help them compile information across their offices that was spread out throughout the globe. So they rolled the system out and nobody used it, spent millions of pounds, nobody used it. They brought in some experts, change experts. And they said, that's okay. We know what you've done wrong. You haven't explained to the people why they've got to use the system.
Okay, so it's all about the people.
Yeah, so go and talk to the people, explain to them the system. So they went out, did this road shows around the globe. It's really important you to use this system. It helps us compile the information, it saves money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Nobody used the system. So then they brought in this guy that I'd met. He was a professor in a French university, and he went locally to see what was really going on. And what he understood in the different branches, it was the local person who had to use this system.
Yeah.
It wasn't the UK expat. Now that local person knew all the networks, all of the contacts, how you got stuff done.
Yeah.
They wanted that person to put all their information, their
power,
their gold nuggets into a system so that they could compile it all centrally.
And they didn't use it.
Why were they? I don't care about why you want me to do it. What does it mean for me? So what they did is in the end, they made sure the people felt the importance and power and all the rest of it and the value, and then they were willing to do it. If you don't think about the people, your transformation, your changes will fail.
I read a McKinsey thing about that actually, and they were saying that something like 70% of transformation projects fail just due to people-related issues. Yeah,
exactly. And that's my point. Is just think about the people, users, and the customers. There was one project that I picked up a couple of years ago, where an organisation had designed a system. It was technically brilliant, but actually they hadn't focused on the customer or the user, so it didn't work.
Right then, what are we actually saying? Are we saying that big IT projects are a waste of time?
Not necessarily, but big IT projects, big transformation projects tend to be like open heart surgery, sorting out everything. They're major.
Yeah, and before you do open heart surgery, you want to make sure you've got everything else sorted out first.
Yeah. So what are the sorts of things that you'd look at before you go for that?
Well, first of all, have you talked to your staff and got a list of the things that they would like to have fixed? Secondly, not very sexy at all, but have you been through your processes and do you understand how they work? Thirdly, have you looked at your incentives and the chaos that they're causing in your organization? I could go on. What about capability? What about training? There are a whole host of levers you can pull before you get into big IT projects.
Yeah, and have you really looked and understood what the challenges are for your customers and your market?
Yeah, and I think that really is the key point, Jimmy. Yeah, and if anybody listening to this is short of ideas, give us a shout. We'll come and have a look with you.
Definitely find ways of transforming without big open heart surgery. In summary then, I think we're agreed transformation as an output, as something you're trying to achieve, is important for organizations to think about.
Yeah.
But there are ways of doing that without doing big transformation programs. But if you are going to do a big transformation program, there's probably a few things to bear in mind.
Yeah. So first of all, be really clear what the problem is. What are you trying to transform and why? Because if the solution is you need to transform everything, then you're really not clear and you're not focused and it'll just get very expensive.
It's worth creating a really clear and compelling vision to ensure that your program is really focused, and also to make sure that you really build belief in your people and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. And please don't be seduced into thinking that a nice, big, sexy system is the answer, because if you think technology is the answer to all your problems, you are sadly mistaken.
It's worth also making sure that you have the capability to deliver any program. People as we discussed, they overestimate their ability to deliver.
And governance, I do like a bit of governance myself, but it should enable progress, not stifle it.
Engage all your stakeholders, customers, employees. Think about your partners that you work with, everyone.
And if you are doing a transformation project just to save money, then think about mitigating the work first. Where is the cost coming from? What's driving the demand? Then when you've done that, simplify everything. And then when you've mitigated and simplify, then get into automation and outsourcing. I think maybe I've got another episode in that somewhere.
I think you're right, definitely. And also, finally, consider how will you sustain the change? Don't just drop a change into your organization and expect it to work. Think about how it's going to be sustained in the long term to ensure that you see the value of what you're doing.
Lovely. So I think that's us done on transformation. What are we going to talk about next?
Next week, we are going to come back to that subject you mentioned earlier, the post office scandal.
Got me frothing.
Exactly. I think that'll be a really interesting one. We're going to explore what you learned from that, and that caused so much human misery. That's a real one to knock around.
Super. I'll speak to you next week.
Thanks, James. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week.
Cheers now.
If you'd like to find out more about how James and I can help your business, then have a look at our website, jobdonewell.com.